Okay, we are live. So, hello everybody. We are the development team for NovaMundi, and this is just a meeting. So, the idea with this meeting is we are participating in Devcom 2021. So, Devcom again this year is also a virtual conference like last year, and um, last year we participated too. We were displaying an early version of what is nowadays NovaMundi. Back then it was called Expedition. Camilo and I were there, and we were playing what we had back then, and it was very different. We still were deciding on the theme that we were going to apply to the game. Back then we still had this theme of European exploration of in a semi-fictitious world inspired by South America, but nowadays we are doing something completely different. I believe some months after Devcom, we decided to focus completely on making NovaMundi be a game where this indigenous culture from real history, this Muisca culture of nowadays territory of Colombia, was going to be the protagonist, and that's what we have been working on since then. Mm, 1 year ago, we did not even have this name for NovaMundi. It was just Expedition, and even did some gameplays. Maybe today we will do one too. So today we have here Camilo Ramirez. He is the developer of the core of the what is nowadays NovaMundi. Back then, I like to call it the Expedition engine, Expedition X4 or something like that, because we had created this engine so many times. But yeah, that's like the underlying thing that allows this gameplay of exploration and going from town to town in this overworld kind of fashion, as well as the combat system too, similar to an RTS, but you can pause anytime. So yeah, I think Camilo created most of that underlying code. We also have David. David is the artist of the project, and lately he's having a lot of work as we try to increase or improve the visuals of NovaMundi uh, in some aspects that are still like a legacy of the previous history of the project. So we are getting up to date with the units, the characters of the game, and all that. And we also have Juan Carlos, Quiet Gecko. Again, as I mean, I think I did not, I failed to mention something. So we are now on early access, right? And actually, we are approaching the end of our planned early access phase. So that's why we are like doing so much stuff, like to make sure that this final version is great. And Juan Carlos is also doing a lot of work in the audio aspects. I think some of the work that he's done has been with us for 2 years or something like that since we participated in Crea Digital. I believe probably one of the music tracks is the thing that gave the direction to the project and kind of served us to present that proof of concept to Crea Digital and get that grant. And nowadays we are finishing and adding like a more ambient sounds, and improving the UX sounds and filling the gaps because we did not have like a clear idea of what we were going to need to do in any aspect, but especially in the audio aspect. I believe we kind of started working, and yeah, and then there were some gaps that we need to fill now. Like we create new units, but we did not create sound effects for those units. We create new environments like the Paramos, these high Andes mountains, but we did not create and sound effects or ambient sound for that. So yeah, we are kind of getting up to date in all the different aspects of the game. So yeah, that's the team, or at least part of the team. We also, as part of the team, we also have Manuel, our linguistics and historical advisor. He's not here today, He could not join this meeting, but he's also hard at work in this phase, creating quality content for the population of the towns and the quest that you're actually going to be doing when you arrive to these towns. So yeah, that's who we are. And I don't know who wants to talk a bit about the project or how you feel about the project. Maybe Juan Carlos, you want to start?
Okay. How I feel about the project? I think the path that the project is taking is very interesting because it has made us research a lot and ask a lot of questions to ourselves on how we make this game more appealing and more like ours. Like how can we represent our culture in a respectful way, but not losing the focus on making an interesting game and a fun game. And I think that's very cool. Also, looking at the audio aspect of the game, going backwards 2 3 years ago, it's very cool to not cool, but it's an interesting task to go back and see how the game was thought at that time, and we the game was more like regarding the sound effects, the interface and the whole aspect of the game was more like wood, like polished worked wood, and so the sound effects appeal to that. And now it's more like the interface is made of rock, so it makes you question how to sell that aesthetic in a better way. And because the rush of the development at that time, I didn't have the enough time to sit and understand the game in depth as the way I'm doing right now. So I realized that interfaces were very important. They are always important, but in this specific case, you spend a lot of time just playing in an interface, talking with characters, swapping things in the inventory. So it's a thing that is important to notice. And now I'm trying to convey a better approach to the UI, so it doesn't sound like just as a plain UI sound, but it also helps you sell where you are and what you're doing, and almost that you can open a window or a pop-up, and you try to listen, and just by listening to the sound you realize what you're doing, what you're working with. So that's has been like a challenge and some like good thing to spend some time to investigate and try other games. And another thing that is been a big thing in this part of the development is that I finally started getting into the project, like in the programming aspect of the project, and I started understanding how to approach systems that we always talked about, but we haven't implemented fully in the game. So that's something very fun to do. I really like that. It takes sometimes some time because you didn't build the game, so you have to sit and and understand a lot of thought process of other person. But I really like doing that. So yeah. And finally, like we had music recordings, but because the aim of the project was different at the time, we have a lot of music that is not going to be used in this project. So we have to take all this and analyze again and try to understand what we can take and we have to modify. And with the recordings that we did but we didn't implement into the music, I think at the end of this development stage, the music will feel new and different, even though that is gonna be mostly the same music. So I think that is exciting.
Yeah, I believe we had a lot of guitars, right? Like Spanish guitars and stuff like that. That probably a lot of that won't go into the game. But that's a shame because it was a very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think last time we had this kind of meeting, we were sharing a little bit of all that new work that you had on the recordings. But well, I hope we can do something similar to the remaining audio with the new style that we are looking for. Alrighty, maybe we can go with Camilo. So Camilo has been kind of away from the project, like on a direct way, right, for some months now. But as I mentioned, he left a lot of the foundations of the technical aspect. So what can you tell us, Camilo? How have you seen the latest development of the game? What do you think about it?
Right. Yeah. After I left, all the bugs in, and I managed to run away.
Shame
Uh,
you.
Now the project has really evolved really well. I mean, we started this iteration 3 years ago, but I mean, we've been discussing the idea for forever. So it's really nice seeing it finally coming to like this stage and finally having like a direction. We did spend a lot of time just wondering what to do with it and doing a lot of testing gameplay from open world to other things, more on a small scale. But yeah, no, I really like how it's been evolving, especially with the procedural generation, which you've been adding a lot. I think that really has solidified a lot of the gameplay, um, that the game needed. Right, to have something more compact but more meaningful than just something just open with filled with just a bunch of filler activities.
Right, yeah, yeah. At one point we had this the idea of I don't know what idea we had, just like being able to have a sandbox of this age of exploration, which in the end was not probably not a very good idea, I guess. As we learned, as we evolved into, I believe at one point when we started showing the game to more people, we found out that this team was not very welcome. And even if it had some positive aspects, it was not the kind of thing that people envisioned them, or a lot of people envisioned them playing as an European explorer in the age of exploration, as it's a very complex part of story. So yeah, and then as Camila mentioned, we have evolved into, I mean, beyond this thematic aspect, also we have evolved into a more compact gameplay, which we are still kind of polishing the rough ends, but it works at least, and we could go to early access. So how we can leave early access decently, which takes me to David. David is integral on this aspect. So how's it going, David? Are we going to be able to uh, make people feel very immersed in this land of the Andes when we leave early access? What do you think?
Well, I sure hope so. The game lately has been through a process of reimagining what the Muisca looks like. We are upping the quality of the models. If you guys played the early access version, you can play with a really low poly version of the models. But now we are integrating into the game a high poly count version of those assets. I think it will look really good. Uh, to Yeah, today if you're gonna do a 3D game, you have to have like a minimum level of quality. So we have to up the quality of some assets. We are being modeling a lot of animals into the game. So when you guys play, you're going to experience a more lively experience. It's not a vast Greenland anymore. it's now filled with animals. Hopefully, we can integrate more people into the overworld. Yeah, in general, a more lively scene when you explore the game.
Yeah, and I believe that's something that we really wanted to do, and probably the most important feedback that we got from streamers such as Nookrium, which is the biggest streamer that has played NovaMundi, was about the world feeling a bit empty, right? Right, like initially we thought of this as just like an overworld type of game, but I think recently there's been some games which are similar in some aspects, like Mountain Blade, and we should also definitively talk about WarTales at some point in this meeting, because it has served a lot of I mean, it has given us a perspective, I believe, on a lot of things that we want to achieve. We have been working on. I'm not sure how long Shiro Games has been working on WarTales, but we have been working on this one for a long time. They have a somewhat bigger team, I guess, especially on the art part. Um, but I believe we're doing a good job, and yeah, this thing of the world feeling alive is something that we did not have at first, but has been very important on this last phase of the development, and we are doing a good progress on that for now. At least now we have animals roaming the land, and also in the last version that we put out there, we have expeditions of enemies. So you are no longer just like randomly attacked by enemy party, but rather you see them out there and you can decide to try to run from them or just attack them. And I believe we need to add more, probably trading caravans that may give a lot of life to the world.
Yeah, we have actually right now we have some town people animations. We want to implement those. Obviously, we want to play a bigger part in the trading part of the game with the animations, with what you see on the overworld. So hopefully, for the release, we can experience that.
Yes, yes. So I don't know. Do you guys have anything else you want to share? I thought I would like just put some gameplay of NovaMundi as we played, but if you guys have anything you want to talk about the project, or I don't know, something.
Just maybe with the animals, like the adding of all the animals, that really helps selling, not just visually, but in the audio aspect of the game. It feels a lot because we just take these animals and make them do random sounds, and that starts making the game feel very different. Like you really get more immersed just because there's things that you see happening and sounding, and even though that those like the parrots or the condor, they just fly around and they don't do anything more than that. It adds a lot of like more depth to the game, and that's very cool.
Yeah, I believe having we really want the player to feel immersed into the game, and the audio aspect plays a strong role here. As we add more stuff, we still need to add like those spot ambience to the water sources and all that. But we'll get to that hopefully.
So, what I guess this is kind of a question, I guess, for the viewers maybe, is the how which genre does NovaMundi falls on? Because aesthetically, what a lot of people first get is that it's maybe like Age of Empires, but the game is nothing like that. So, how would
Yeah,
you say?
that's a tricky question, and I have one answer, but I will like to see what David thinks about this. What genre do you think this game is? To see if we have the same idea or not.
We've been talking about this for the longest time. I think the most relatable game is Warband, Mountain Blade Warband. I think it's like, I don't know, it's a bit of a strategy game, RTS, but you're not building, so that's a big that's a big chunk of that genre. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Mm,
genre.
survival, maybe survival.
What do you say, Juan Carlos?
I think it can have some survival aspects, but I think that's where a lot of the experience of the devs of Expedition now NovaMundi falls in that this roguelike aspect is what matches with the survival aspect. So you basically die and just do the things wrong, and that's where the strategy falls off because you have to be more strategic about what you do and how you manage everything in order to survive, right? And to get the goal done. So it has a bit of everything. I think the RTS aspect is not as strong as people may think.
Yes, it's a bit misleading, I believe.
Yeah.
Definitely not an RTS. A lot of people like judging just from the screenshots, especially from the combat. Uh, it may seem that this is just like a classic RTS, but themed on this indigenous culture of Colombia or something like that, like the Colombian Age of Empires or something like that. But that's not it. It's far from being that. There is survival and there is a strategy, but I believe these are like just components of the game. Um, so yeah, it is tricky. Lately, and then to me, the game is a roguelike, like a straight traditional roguelike. The problem with that is that when you see the game, it doesn't look like a roguelike at all, right? You don't see the grid, you don't see the dungeons, you don't see the like the turn-based nature, which are like very familiar aspects for the traditional roguelike players. But when you play it, you notice that it's very similar, like the way you interact with the game. There is no rush. You can take your time to think, even for both the combat mode and the exploration mode. If you don't do anything, then the time doesn't pass. You don't have to rush to do stuff. You can pause the combat at any time, which of course breaks completely with what is combat on an RTS, because in an RTS you have to move quickly and be like aware of all that is happening. Maybe in a modern like a game, which uh, may also be similar or look similar, like a MOBA or something like that. You have to move very quickly and think very quickly, and you don't have to do that in NovaMundi. Um, but then you don't have like a grid, right? So I have seen some similar games where, but they are turn-based tactic games. In those games, you have a grid, and when you move in combat, you move from one grid to the other. You don't have that in NovaMundi. So it's tricky to put it on a genre. To me, it's a roguelike. All roguelike players will not see that when they just use screenshots, and they will think that it's just another mislabeled game, right? Just because it has procedural generation or permadeath. Um, but so that's why it's hard to openly say that it's a roguelike. Right now, it's just like a strategy RPG. That I think believe that's how it's classified right now on Steam. Um, but it's different than, it's not like a Fire Emblem or something like that, where you have like a 40, 50, 60 hours campaign or something like that. It's made to be played in small runs of 2 or 3 hours. So yeah, it's tricky.
I think when you once you play it, you realize the roguelike aspect of the game because it's very hard to win on the first run, and
Right.
then you start understanding things, and then you realize that you don't need to rush because you start rushing all the time because you think that is like a real time strategy game.
Yes, 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 yeah. That's maybe something that it's hard to communicate. It's hard for people to realize what the game is about. Hopefully, they will do. And I already mentioned another game, upcoming game, WarTales. WarTales looks similar. There is exploration too. It's got this open world kind of thing, as David mentioned, this Mountain Blade Warband kind of thing. But it's not procedural generated, right? The overworld or the world is fixed. So that's already something that completely changes the game. Um, so I don't know. It's like an hybrid. Hopefully, we will manage to make people understand what it's about and play.
Yeah, I think that's like a good thing about the game is not necessarily is not just another RTS. It's not just another roguelike. It's not just another survival game, but it's kind of its own thing, which I think is like a good aspect for any sort of game, right? You're not just playing Age of Empires made in 2021, right? You're playing NovaMundi. So I think that's absolutely like a good aspect of the game, that you cannot actually say, well, this is basically this, but rather it's the game. It's NovaMundi.
Yeah, I think that's very important because it's not that I think it's not that we're aiming to do something different. Like, oh no, we have to make these decisions to be different from Age of Empires, or we have to do this decision to be different to every world. Like, is how the game has evolved naturally through the years and with the feedback that we received and playing the game as well because we play the game too. So yeah, I think that's it.
All right, so let's play a little bit just for people to get an idea of where we are. We can continue talking, no problem. I'll just play a little bit so that people is not just watching us, but seeing something more interesting, I guess.
Yeah. More
Uh,
interesting than us.
So this is okay. I haven't seen that before. The
Loading screen.
yeah, the lore in the loading screens.
Right, we added that. We still need to add some more stuff to that so that it's more clear, like what phase of the generation process we are on, right? Because it sometimes it even hangs there, and people believe that the game has crashed, but it hasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have put some information there about the units, and it's every time you play, it's different there. So just like a placeholder thing. Alrighty. So I'm just going to play a little bit. As we have mentioned several times already, everything is procedural generated, and we are going to just complete the mission. So in NovaMundi, you are traveling on this land, and you are going through the different towns, and your mission is to unite these tribes. That's also something that has changed a little bit, I guess, and has been defined a bit more. And it's at one point, or initially, when we went this route of this team, we thought of the theme of the Spanish invasion as this kind of super powerful thing, right? That you needed to prepare to combat against. Through this time, we had a lot of people advise us and give us information about the project. And what we have now is the enemy is not really this Spanish invasion. This is themed on the initial wave of Spanish explorers or invaders that arrived to this area of Colombia on the 16th century, and they were not very powerful actually, at least not like a military in their military aspect. So actually, what we are going for here is what we need to combat is this division between the Muisca people, right? We need them to unite together as a political entity, as something that can withstand that has no division that the invaders can take advantage of. So that's where we are now, and that kinds of gives a little less protagonism to the Spanish. They are there, but they are not like this evil thing that is you like going to destroy you. No, at least not initially. But it's just something that is out there, and that you need to prepare, not just like building a force, like a military force, but rather uh, removing all these divisions of the Muisca people, or at least some of them, so that there's like a strong nation there, and that prevents the Europeans from being able to seize the power there. So, anyways, you have to go to all these towns and convince them that it's a good idea to leave those problems in the past and just join together in this kind of confederation. So historically, the Muisca Confederation existed, but it was very loose, right? There were like chieftains, there were like leaders on each one of these territories, and they had a common culture, a lot of things in common, but there wasn't like an unified ruler, right? Or an system of like a strong confederation system. So yeah, this is a fantasy scenario that we're doing, but built over like a real life investigation on what the Muisca culture was like.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
another cool thing with we have now is that there's Muisca words on the conversations, and we even have like a tooltip that translates some Muisca words. So I think that's amazing. I think that's the way that we have to appropriate like our culture and our ancestors. I think that's the best way to bring it here and not try to relive the past, but trying to make it something valuable here right now.
That's right. Yes, this is something that Manuel is doing a lot of work on, and to kind of weave these Muisca words into the dialogues, but also we have a system that allows you to know what they are, what they mean, right? Um, this dialogue system is heavily inspired by the classic Ultima games, uh, and this is where we are like trying to give life to the characters of the different towns and for to tell a little bit about the culture of the Muisca. All right. So I'm going to prepare my first expedition, and what I do here is we're going to put some people in our group. This is our starting group, and we make people join the expedition by sharing the experiences we have with them. That's kind of the um, prestige or whatever currency that we win every time we win in combat or we make a discovery or something like that.
So what's the best like build up to a startup?
I believe I don't know. Maybe what do you think, David? Have you played the game a little bit, or Juan Carlos? What do you think is the best build, the best units that you could hire here?
I
I
started a lot
always
of
go,
Archer.
yeah, I always go with ranged.
Ranged, yeah, I agree. Maybe it's a little bit unbalanced right now, but
Maybe.
yeah. The archers are very powerful.
But on the other hand, if you don't have enough guardians or gechas, if you are only with archers, you're dead. You can't survive. Even
Yeah,
in
you need
Spanish, if there's like mounted cavalry, you're dead with archers.
you need some mid shields.
All right, so I'm going
There's
to.
also the interesting part of also building kind of like these expeditions is that it's not just about the power of the units, but you also need explorers.
Right.
I mean, right? Is that still a thing?
Yes. So we in here we got a single explorer. That's the guy who we started with, and actually there are more roles that are not for combat, which we have not integrated yet. But we're going to add this Chikui, which is like the priest, and with the Chikui you will be able to make offerings in the nature to obtain blessings for your party, um, and then also healers like specialized units that are specialized in taking care of your other units. So yeah, that's still something. And explorers are super important still because if you don't have explorers, then you lose your way.
Yeah, you can't go back and get some resources or more people in towns if you don't have explorers, so you're dead without.
Yes,
And
that's right. All right. We need also some supplies and actually, Juan Carlos, I believe you gotta abandon us for now. Leave the party. or can you stay for a little bit now more?
I have to leave in 2 minutes, but I can stay for two
All right.
minutes.
Okay.
So is the location of each city um, is random, but the actual location and its inhabitants, that's more, or is that also random?
No. So inside each town or inside each one of these towns, we do have a fixed population. So most of the people here is handcrafted, right? Like that's the a lot of the work that Manuel is doing right now. We may shuffle some people around, maybe that we haven't decided on that. Like put some of them, relocate them to other town, but that may not be possible if some of the dialogues may make direct reference to the town or something like that. So but yeah, that's a lot of work that probably the player is only going to see once, right? The first time he arrives to each town, he's probably, maybe, hopefully, be interested in knowing a little bit about this town. But it's not needed. I mean, in subsequent runs, most of the information here is not going to be needed, and we are actually going to mark them as such, right? We're going to say, okay, so Chequegaita is mostly an informative character, so you can skip it, skip him. You don't need to talk with him in if you are just going playing the game for the 20th time, right? But for example, would have other characters who do have procedural content, like Chancha in this case. So she tell us the location of animals or towns that are nearby and that kind of thing. So it's like a mix, with most of them being handcrafted, but you still need to talk with some others to complete your mission.
Okay, now I'm gonna leave.
All
Thank you.
right, Juan Carlos, thank you for joining
Bye.
and have a good day.
So yeah,
Bye.
So I was going to check trade. So this is something really interesting, and I believe probably we already had this 1 year ago, but it was like super rough. And I have found that people really enjoy this part, this bartering aspect, because we are trying to like mimic at at some level like how barter worked for the Muisca. So what we have here is, well, you're offering and you are requesting stuff. And in this case, initially, oh, actually, we need to get some gold from Ramirike, uh, right? Because we need to trade that gold for
so
food.
what's at the Tejuelo itself?
Atejuelo is a golden disc valued as a trade gold,
Right.
as you can see here. So actually, in the dialogue, they explain that. I just went through it super fast, but yeah, he explains what it's about. So we're going to offer him one tejuelo, and you see this mark here is like the how valuable the tejuelo is for this person, right? And we're going to trade that for a lot of maize, right? Because we need that, and we trade, and basically that's it. That we could offer some of the other stuff we have, but initially, or at least for now, uh, that's what we wanted. Here we can also see the tunjos, which are going to have like a stronger role in the future. But right now, what you can do with them is you equip them into one of your units, and it improves what the unit can do. But in the future, already mentioned the Chikui unit. They are going to be able to use them for more interesting stuff than just improving the attack or something like that. All right. So we are ready to go to Suomox. That's the first destination. As I mentioned, this is the auto map, and as you travel, it starts getting filled as long as you got some explorers in your party. So while I travel, I don't know, David, any thoughts about uh, what is upcoming to the game? Maybe the design of the characters, how it has changed. Initially, we had this idea of kind of super deformed, or I don't know, like not realistic proportions of the characters. And I believe that may be one of the reasons why people relates this to Age of Empires. Probably, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I
Um,
think we were stuck with those models for a long time. They were presets, so you can't alter or modify a lot for them. If you are playing with an explorer, the explorer looks the same every time you play. Any unit you play is that unit, as you say. In Age of Empires is the same. You play, and the warriors, the archers, the cavalry, they look the same. Uh, this time we try to do more character based design, so we can alter the hairstyles, we can alter the headgears, the clothes, what kind of weapons they are carrying. It's basically the same unit, but with different equipment. So we can make more detailed hairs. We can make more detailed clothing. I think this is going to be a much appreciated improvement over what we have right now.
they got us. All right, so we were assaulted because we were like swimming, and when you swim, you move very slowly and you cannot go away. But yeah, that's a pretty interesting part. So we are going away from this kind of unit-based look. You can see here we have all the archers; they look exactly the same. Our system allows for a little bit of variation, but that's actually not currently not activated, so you can change the head, but ultimately they all look the same. Same for the guardians. Here you see six guardians, so it's like a chess game, I guess, like a pawns, like I don't know. And what we are doing is we are improving this so that each unit is more of an individual character, right? Still with providing some way to differentiate them, and like being able to know this is an archer, this is a guardian, something like that. But yeah, less of pieces, more of individuals, and the same for the enemies. And that's going to take us a little bit of time, but I believe it's worth it and fits more like what we want to do with the game. We already have this expedition screen where you see every unit, and every unit has its own unique portrait, right? But when you go to combat, they all look the same, so they lose like that individuality, and they become just like you know like, yeah, like pieces on the board. And so yeah, I think that's important.
So the time only advances when you are actually moving, right?
Yes, that's a recent change. And you can also now boost the time to move very quickly between two. So if you press shift, the time compressed to 2x, but your movement speed also increases, of course. So this is useful because sometimes you need to like cover some great length between two towns, and it may be boring to just walk slowly to get there, and it may be like just some plains, right? So um, it's like that kind of usability things that are really needed, I mean, for the game not to become boring or monotonous. So
The Death Stranding experience.
yeah, I don't know, I haven't played it, but I guess so. I need to play more. Okay, so it's night time. It's time to camp. We are near Swamox, but we're going to camp here. 10 hours is a lot. All right. Okay, I think, well, we are still approaching the hour. Maybe I believe we're going to run this for 10 more minutes or so. If you guys wanted to talk about something else, or we
Yeah,
could.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think another thing we can talk about is the user interface. it has been a constant development between you and me. We are trying to improve it a lot. I think some changes are coming next for the minimap and for some elements in the bars. I think I don't know what I'm saying. Basically, what you're seeing with the user interface right now is not what the game will look for the release. We are improving a lot of systems in the user interface. So
Yes,
hopefully
yes.
you will see a better one.
Yeah, we already did a lot of improvements, right? Because there's this like balance between having a high resolution UI, right? As a lot of players on the strategy genre expect, like very high resolution, tiny bars, stuff like that. But then there's the accessibility concerns of it being playable for a lot of people. So maybe you need to add that as an option, probably. Uh, but yeah, sometimes, and initially we had this kind of like very big UI like popping up, and it looked a little bit like a mobile game port. I believe that's what this target audience identifies. Um, so so yeah, we are still working on the UI. Um, I'm not sure like what improvements that David is talking about directly, because there's already a lot of things that have changed here, uh, but definitively something important to work on before the final release. All right,
Yeah,
I
it's nothing
remember some of
crazy.
them. Yeah, I remember, for example, here in the towns, this is going to change a lot, right? Because we right now have this window, and
Yeah,
that's not
exactly.
going to be there. Instead, you're going to see like some pop-up floating things here,
Yeah,
and
yeah, we're trying to make the user experience a little bit more seamless. So there's not that many windows that you have to, yeah, navigate through.
yes, yes, yes. I believe this has been like a part of the evolution of the user experience. At some point, there were even like more options here, like when you interacted with a town, you could like attack the town, or I don't remember. Like maybe, for example, trading with the town was initially done here, but now it's like a thing you do with someone directly because there may be many traders in the town. So yeah, this is like a remnant of an initial design, uh, and yeah, that's going to change as we approach the end date, the final date. All right. So we are ready to Swamox, and here we can talk with the Iraka, Nompanim, and he gives us the mission to unite all the all these territories. And I believe something that I would also want to mention regarding again this roguelike aspect. So when you are playing a roguelike, you normally are in a dungeon, and you're finding like some loot, right? To like weapons, armor, potions, magic scrolls, stuff like that. Um, in here, what we have is spread on the land, we have some towns or some huts or some people. And when you find them, they give you stuff, right? So units, supplies, that the kind of loot and that you can find when you're exploring. And that's another like similarity to the roguelites. This is an open overworld, I would like to call it, but let's say open world roguelike. So you will never find like a dungeon with rooms and corridors and stuff like that. But the idea is still that you're exploring, and every time you play, you might find different conditions. So maybe easier or harder sometimes, depending on what you find. But definitively, exploring the land should give you some advantages, and it should be exciting to find like a lonely hut there when you are starving, when your expedition is starving, and they give you some food, or when you are like very low in people and you manage to get one of these territories to unite, and they give you some boost of 4 or 5 warriors or something like that. So that's another aspect of like the flow of the game, like keeping finding new stuff. You always gotta try to keep your people alive, but sometimes they will die, and you will need to find new people to strengthen back your expedition. So here we're taking all that they are giving us. And from here, right now, what you can do is you start like exploring all around the land. For example, here, well, let's see the missions. We need to go to Hunza, Bakatasu, Aguativa, Tokaima. And what you do is in every town, you need to ask for directions to nearby towns. For example, here he's telling us that Bakata is to the west. So that's what one of the things that we can do is try to explore westward somewhere here. Bakata is somewhere here. But if we travel directly there, there's this wetland which is hard to cross, and then there's this forest which is also hard to cross, and you can get lost. So that's the kind of decisions that you need to do to take. Like how? Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong direction. Actually, there is none of that to the west, so we can go safely. But yeah, that's the kind of decisions that you need to take when you're playing the game, and every time you play is different. So yeah, I believe that that's what I wanted to show about the game.
So when is it coming out of early access? Do you have a date?
Well, we're still holding the date of September 14. That's less than a month away. So we'll see. We will evaluate when we are closer to the date, because I would really like for us to be able to include a lot of things uh, in the transition to the full release, mainly these new units, right? So that's going to take some effort. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I believe there's been some games like WarTales which have gathered some attention, and we really want to be able to have people interested in WarTales, for instance, see this different option that is similar but provides procedural content. Some people like that, some people don't. It has pros and cons, but this is what we have. So we need to the game to up the quality of the visual quality of the game a little bit more, so that people, while understanding that it's never going to have like the same level of quality, visual quality than WarTales, at least it's a little bit more closer to what they will expect, I guess.
I think that's fine. Not all the games. I think the most important aspect is that the game itself provides a good enough experience. And of course, you have a very small team compared, I don't know, their team, but imagine it's a little bit bigger.
Yes, Hero Games, they are indie developers too, but they created Northgard, which has
Yeah.
been pretty successful. So they are now, I'm not sure how many games they're working on. They released this demo of WarTales 3 months ago, something like that, 2 months ago. And it was like a pleasant surprise to see that we had like a similar game, because as we mentioned, it's very hard to classify this into a genre. Oh, and we're going to be attacked again. Let's face them. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. um, and then we'll see what's the reception of the game like when it's out there. So far we have had a lot of people interested, especially in Colombia, and a lot of people interested in the team, but we still gotta see how this is going to do with the gamers, right? Which are the people that actually buys the game and plays. So that's like the big question that we have ahead. All right. Any closing thoughts, David or Camilo?
Get NovaMundi.
Yeah, I hope you like the final product. We are hoping to hear from you, and yep, have fun in the game.
And get NovaMundi, that's right. You can get it now. You can get it on early access on Steam. As we mentioned, it's going to be out of early access very soon, probably 1 month, less than 1 month was the initial date that we had planned, but who knows? But still very close to being released to the full release. But you can get it now if you want to support the project, and also if you want to get it for a reduced cost, right? Because it's going to cost a little bit more once it gets out of early access. You can go there and buy the game. Solely, you can also join the Discord. You can find all the links to this on our website, which I'm going to post here on the stream. It's slashware.games slash NovaMundi, or just NovaMundi. Crap, I botched that again. um, from there, you can find the link to our Discord and also to the Steam. Well, or you can just search for NovaMundi on Steam. So yeah, get the game. And we hope to see you in the Discord. We appreciate all the feedback that you can give us. We also need more reviews. If you have played the game and you haven't posted a review, we need you to post a review, because for Steam, it's very important to have some reviews in the game for people to really see that it's an active game that is being played. And we have positive reviews, but the numbers are still very low. So it's like we don't exist for the Steam algorithm. So please post reviews and keep an eye on all the updates we put on the Steam page or in the blog. And yeah, thank you for watching. See you soon.